Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. My name is Ben, and I host this cool little podcast. If you're joining me for the first time, then thanks a heap for listening. On today's episode, I'll be chatting with Mark Wolters, who hosts the very popular travel channel Wolters World on YouTube. Amassing over 600,000 subscribers, Mark brings people travel advice, travel guides, and his enjoyable take on his love and hate about a place. So sit back and enjoy the conversation I had with Mark. First off, congratulations on 125 million views. Did you ever think you'd be...
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it.
No, that's all right, mate. Did you ever think you'd be that successful on YouTube? Was it a goal?
No, it was never a goal for us to ever have that many views. I mean, I'm still like, how the heck do we have that many? Because, I think back in the day when we started, I'm like, who's going to watch a fat, balding dude, talking about travel? And there's all these young people that can do backflips off of, cliffs and stuff like that. But it's been really cool because it means we've actually been able to help a lot of travelers. And it's cool because we get high schoolers writing us, we get college students writing us, we get retirees, we get families, all kinds of people just saying, hey, thanks for your help or ask us for help. And it's just been really great to know that we've been able to impact so many people over the years. It's like, it's a really cool thing. Like last night, my wife's like, she gives me a kiss. I'm like, what's up? She goes like, I just want to say congratulations. That's really cool that you've gotten that far. I'm like, it doesn't really sink in. It's like, man, 125 million views. That's crazy how many people have sat through listening to my professor voice drone on and on and on.
Well, it's not a voice that feels like it drones on, Mark. Whenever I'm watching your videos, I feel that I'm just watching a friend. So I don't know if that's the way that you come across actually on video. I think that's the way I feel. I feel I'm watching someone that I already know that's very, very watchable, like visually and audibly. And I think you just do a good job. You know how to come across and make a video interesting and watchable.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's really nice to hear.
That's right.
When I started out, I remember when I started out Wolters World, I was so frustrated with the blogs and the guidebooks that just gave so much BS and they weren't being honest with people. I'm like, I would just like my buddy to tell me, hey, dude, when you're going to Portugal, you're going to love it, but just know you got to pay for the bread, dude. That's what I wanted. It was something like that out there. There was nobody doing that at the time. And so it just kind of flowed from there. And I'm glad that the honesty really shows through. That's one of the things I really we pride ourselves on is, look, we haven't been sponsored by anybody. We're not saying this is the greatest place in Mexico because someone, gave us a free trip. It's just been look, I'm your friend. And that's what's cool is I love when people write because it's they are our friends. Like you wrote me and we were talking and I feel, hey, we're travelers. We do this stuff together and it gives us some kind of bond. And I don't know, it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely neat. I think when I started talking to you, Mark, it's like I just started messaging a friend or something like that. You're a very approachable dude.
Thanks, man.
That's all right.
You're a pretty sweet dude too yourself, Ben.
No worries, mate. No worries. Now, tell me, how did you start Wolters World Travel Channel on YouTube?
Well, I remember when I really decided there's a few things that kind of influenced me starting making videos, but where Wolters World really came from, because I made videos for students and I'd made language videos for my, at the time, fiance is my wife about moving to Portugal with me. But where Wolters World really came was I just got so frustrated with all the blogs and the guidebooks that obviously were copying off each other. They'd either taken money or been influenced because, I'm going to write a good review because of this place. And I got really frustrated with it. And I was in Venice and the Veneto region in Italy. And I flew in. I'm like, I don't have a guidebook. I just buy a guidebook off the shelf here at the airport. I buy one and it's not in alphabetical order. It's go to this town. I'm like, wait, it's Veneto and you don't have Venice first? Oh, this town must be good. And I read the guidebook and this place sounds fantastic. Oh, a great palazzo, a great museum. The food's fantastic. It's just, you have to go here. I'm like, wow, this place sounds great. And I've never heard of it. And I had friends of mine that lived in the area. And so I showed them the book, damn, this place, that's the place. I never thought it was like that. I was there as a kid and it sucked, And I'm like, that should have been my first sign. And so I ended up going there, and I was doing my PhD at the time, so I had more free time. But all my friends were working, right? And so they had their like 10 days of vacation a year, and I was between semesters, so I had plenty of time. And I go there, and the Palazzo's closed, the museum didn't have anything worth seeing. The food wasn't really anything to write home about. And I'm like, man, this would really suck, because I have friends of mine that maybe they get 10 days off that they can go to Europe or something like that. Either in their first 5 years of school. And you're like, man, think about it. One day wasted because a guidebook said this place is fantastic and it wasn't. I'm like, that's not right. That's not fair.
No, it's
and
not.
So that's where we started making our 5 love and hates videos. I'm like, look, because the place has some nice things, but you need to be honest with people about, look, there's some stuff you're going to like and there's stuff you're not going to like. And that's okay. And I know a lot of like tourism boards don't want you to ever talk about anything bad about a place. But, people need to know. It's like, look, you go to Australia, you need to wear your sunblock, because it's really strong down there, man.
Yeah,
you got to be serious about it.
That's true.
And sometimes it's just little things like that people, tourism boards are like, no, we don't want you to talk. We don't want to talk about those things. I'm like, well, people need to know this. And so we started doing that, and I started to see it really resonate with people. Like, no one's being honest about stuff. And I think that's where we started with the 5 love and hates. And then from there, I thought, well, we moved into like culture shocks and fun shocks that people have when they're there. Because, hate's such a strong word. It's not most of the time it's like 5 loves and 4 mild annoyances and 1 hate, and so we kind of started making like these don't videos so we can kind of put the good and the bad together and the shock videos and stuff like that. And it was a way that we could actually get out to more people. And it's nice to see that we've been able to reach out to like so many different people with our travels and our travel advice, so they're better prepared. So when they go, because you'll meet people that their trip was ruined because of one little thing.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if you just would have seen this video, or if you just would have known that, it never would have bothered you in the first place. Because it goes from like something that would ruin my trip to, I was looking out for that and I see that. Yeah, I know I got to pay for that butter. Now I'm not upset. And so that was one of the things that's really nice, is when we get people that write and you're like, hey, it really helped us on this trip. So anytime we travel, we put the city and we put your name in there, and hopefully something comes up. Like, that's really cool. So that's really where it came from. It's just wanting to get some honest travel advice out there for people. I mean, it's hurt us in terms of, we've never had anybody want to sponsor us. We've never had, we've had, companies who are like, oh, well, you do this, do this project for us. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll make the video and stuff, and we'll tell you everything you have to change. I'm like, look, we have to be honest with people. We're not going to say your product's the greatest, product ever.
Yeah.
When it could be the greatest one, but I'm still going to say the stuff I like and don't like, because that's what people believe. And a lot of brands are like, no, we just want another commercial. I'm like, that's why if you ever listen, you see like cruise ship tours and stuff like that. A lot of cruises the companies will give out free cruises, and like, here are your talking points, and you'll see that everyone will say like the same like there'll be 5 or 6 things they all say. It's because that was on their, And I can understand that, because doing this is not cheap. It's expensive to do all the travel and stuff like that, and so to offset it, a lot of people have to do that, and I understand that. So it's part of the game, but we've been lucky enough that we haven't had to do that, and it's not to say we wouldn't work with companies, because if there's companies we believe in and we like a lot. I mean, we fly with Delta all the time, and I love Culver's. It's a fast food joint here where we live. My students all know how much I love them. Like their chief marketing officer and their mascot showed up at my 8 o'clock in the morning classroom once, and I'm like, what the hell? That's the head marketing person of Culver's. It's like, like a McDonald's kind of thing. I'm like, what the hell? So it's like, there's things like that, but it's gotta be organic. It's gotta be honest. And because that's what I want. I just want, because that's one thing I just get so frustrated when I watch other YouTubers, and it's so obvious they don't really like the place, or they're just there for the money, or they're there for the free trip, and they're not really letting people know that, and not sharing the truth about it. I mean, when everyone's buying the same, drone footage of this beautiful drone footage, it's not really an original video anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I totally understand with the drone footage stuff, Mark. I've got something that I'm going to talk to you about later about the drone footage stuff. But getting back onto the don'ts of traveling, the shocks of traveling, and all that stuff.
Professor Tangent there. Sorry.
No. I love the tangents, mate. I love them. But initially when I did find your channel, that stuff did come out first. It was some of the first videos I saw. And initially I was like, oh, these come across as being quite negative or negatively titled. But I figured out that they were actually quite enjoyable and gave me great advice. So it was the actual is opposite to being negative. It was a positive finding out the don'ts of traveling and the shocks of traveling and things you will love or things you will hate about a place, because I needed to know that. And I think people need to know that when they travel.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's one thing. It's like we used to have like what to see and do in a town, and no one would ever watch them. And then once you start putting in like the don'ts, people are looking for the negatives. And a lot of people will comment on our videos like, I clicked on this thinking I was going to be upset, but you did such a good job of explaining the culture and understanding it, and not just being a tourist, but being someone that's taking the time to do the research. That's just actually, I respect what you're saying, and they don't, not everyone agrees with everything, and that's totally fine. But it's really, that was one of the things, like, look, people need to know these things. And if I can't get through to them, well, if this is the way I can get through to them, then I can get through to them. It's fun.
And that was your intention.
I'm just really glad we can help people.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, Mike. I always wanted to be positive. Yeah. I don't believe in being negative. The negative stuff, the hates and stuff like that, I always feel bad, like putting hate down, but it's I could say mild annoyances, and a lot of times I'll say, it's like, look, these aren't really hates, these are just things that are going to annoy you when you're there, but it's stuff you should know. And so now it's become its own series, so it's kind of hard to change. You can't change McDonald's name after it's been McDonald's for so long. It's like Pizza Hut. It's like, well, no, we got to be Pizza Hut. It doesn't matter what we do, we can't change our name. So there is that, but I know that some people get upset with it, but I don't mean for it to be like an upsetting thing. That's why I always try to make like the thumbnail, the videos and stuff like that. I always try to make them like a positive image and stuff like that. And I'm always, I always try to come off positive in my videos. I'm a very positive person. I love traveling. I love meeting people. There's very few places I would never go back to, and honestly, I probably go back to every place I've ever been, because, there's always going to be something to see. There's always going to be something new to do or a new food to try. A buddy of yours might, move there one day. Like, what, I'll go visit you, So there's always those things.
There's a bit to unpack in that. So I want to ask you a question. So what is your most hated place? If you were to choose a most hated place, even though you just said that you probably don't hate anywhere, or you know what I mean?
Okay, I won't say most hated, but I will say overrated.
Okay, overrated's a good word.
And I think some of these places that are overrated, they're kind of victims of their own success, or they're victims of one thing and people expect more out of them. Like, going to Pisa in Italy. Everyone wants to go to the Leaning Tower, get their picture of holding up the Leaning Tower. And that's something everyone should do. You got to get your picture doing that. But if you think Pisa's got a lot of stuff to see, it doesn't really have a ton. For me, actually, if you go to the baptistry that's just behind the church where the Leaning Tower of Pisa is, actually more beautiful than the Leaning Tower. But there's a few museums in Pisa. It has some of the biggest rip-off restaurants right around the Leaning Tower there. And I tell people, like, look, you're going to go, do your stuff, but don't plan more than a half day there. Get your picture, do your stuff, and get out of town, because you're expecting like, oh, I'm going to go there, there's going to be so much more to see, and there's not. So it's like you're just really disappointed with it. And you'll see that Pisa will come up on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah.
Also, I say a lot of times Brussels, and Brussels is also a victim. It's a victim of politics. Because, as the capital of the European Union, a lot of news comes out of Brussels, right? So live from Brussels, we're talking about the European Union. Today we're here in Brussels. And so people associate Brussels on the same level as Paris and London and Berlin when it comes to the news. So when I think of travel, well, it's always in the news. So it should be popular for travel as well. And you're like, no. Like I tell people, like, look, going to Belgium, Brussels is like the 8th or 9th town you'd want to visit when you go to Belgium, but people think, I got to go to Belgium because the Mannequin Piss, which is, only about half a meter high, people go like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, it's a life-size statue of a little kid peeing. Little kids aren't that tall, And so I think those are two ones I think people get, at least for me, that I was like most disappointing. I'm like, like we were back in Belgium a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we were in Bruges, and they're like, the Ardennes is gorgeous
Bruges
and stuff
is
like that. And I'm like, yeah, Bruges is amazing. I feel like Bruges Ghent is fantastic too. But we're going through, and I'm like, well, should we get out? Because the kids had never been to Brussels. But I'm like, you know what? No, we're just going to go on. We were going to Luxembourg. I'm like, let's just get to Luxembourg.
Luxembourg,
even though we could hop out.
Place.
Yeah. It's Luxembourg's beautiful. Service isn't beautiful, but the place is gorgeous.
That's fair enough.
And the city's gorgeous going around. But I was like, you know what? I'm good. Like, it's fine. They can go when they're older on their own backpacking trips in college or something like that. So I would say those are the two ones that kind of let me down the most.
Yeah. So
I usually I'll talk, and those are the ones that come up probably the most. And the thing is, people like what people find most disappointing really goes down to your go to your perception before you go. They're like, what am I expecting to get out of it? Like people that go to Venice and
true.
get disappointed is because they're not expecting, like, you don't understand how many millions of people and how many cruise ships are coming in to Venice every day. I mean, it's not just weekend. I mean, it's every day. And unless you're going to like in February, you're going to be packed with people. So that turns people off. Same thing kind of happens in Paris. And I can see why people say those are overrated. But for me, I still love Venice. And I still love Paris. I'd still go back tomorrow. No problem.
Oh, absolutely. So, me too. But, with Venice, the one thing that I was disappointed about was the expensive gondolas, because my wife wouldn't go in them because of the price.
Oh, it was like 90 euros last time I was there. It was 90 insane. Euro.
It's just terribly expensive, and it's not worth the money, I don't think.
No, and if you want them to sing, throw in some more money there, and don't forget the tip as well. And for me, I'm like, I did it once, maybe 15 years ago or something like that when my parents were there. I took my parents there the first time.
Yeah.
And it was, and it was like, okay, yeah, I'm never doing this again. And I remember when I went to Venice the first time with my wife, we actually got engaged in Venice.
Oh,
and when she saw the price, she's like, hell no, we're not going on that.
Yeah, my wife and your wife must have similar tastes.
Yeah. They're like, they just want to spend time just with us. They don't want to share us with the gondolier.
Exactly.
That must be it. That's what we can do a lot of stuff with that $90.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're both sexy men and,
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hey, talking about Brussels, because you mentioned Brussels earlier as a place that kind of didn't interest you too much. I felt very similar to how you felt. There was only the little mannequin piss, and I found Brussels as quite a dirty place. They didn't look after the buildings there. The buildings looked green when they probably should have looked cream in color. But I was there a while ago now, so I don't know if they've cleaned up their act. But yeah, I just found it wasn't a city that was well looked after.
Yeah. And I think, it's gotten a little bit better. A friend of mine, she's worked for the European Union for a number of years, and I've gone to visit her. Like, her brother's one of my best friends. And so we've met, like, it's been one of those, hey, I'm visiting my sister. I'm in Europe at that time. Let's just meet there. It was easier to meet him. So we've gone there. And it's definitely better than it was when I was really anti going there, but it's still, it has its issues. That's why I was telling you, like, look, go spend a day. But you know what? Do a day trip from Ghent. Do a day trip from Brussels or Bruges. It's a little bit farther, but do that. Stay in those beautiful small towns they have in Belgium and enjoy, the Flanders or the Wallonia or whatever, because it's not worth your time. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. They get so stuck on, I have to go to the big city and stay in the big city. They don't realize, man, if you really want to see the culture and stuff like that, sometimes it's better to go to a small town and then do like a day trip to the big city versus doing the day trip out into the country. You know what I mean?
Are people scared, though, that maybe in the small towns they won't be able to speak English or, their native language?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we try to get across to a lot of people is we'll talk about language, and a lot of times we'll talk about how easy it is to get around because English is the de facto tourism language of the world.
Yeah.
And usually you're okay. But a lot of people are scared. Like, I want to go to a place. We get questions every week from people like, will I be okay with my broken Spanish and my English when I go to Spain? I'm like, yeah, you'll be totally fine. Don't worry. Like, you say gracias, and like people will be so happy you just tried. And that's where I think a lot of people forget is like just trying to speak the language really opens up people's eyes and minds to you, but also it cracks a smile on their face and that warms them up and they want to help you more. Like, we just put out a video a couple days ago on basic Swahili, and reading the comments of the locals. Because Swahili is not a language people are trying to learn, really. But like the people that are commenting were from Tanzania and they're from Kenya. Like, dude, that is so awesome. You tried. I could tell you actually talked to the people to learn these things. And when I was there, I was just using a jumbo, which is like hi, and karibu, which is welcome, and like just some basic stuff. Yeah. And people are like, dude, that is so cool. Like, poa is like cool. They're like, yeah, respect, man.
Because
it's amazing. Like, just those, you try. And that's anywhere in the world you go. And I think a lot of people just get so scared about it, they just revert right to English or their native language because they are kind of scared. And I think what we try to do in our videos is to help people not be scared. Like, look, you're scared of the unknown. If you know what to expect when you're going someplace, you feel better prepared for it, you're less scared. It's like if I'm going to for example, I take college students every year to somewhere in Europe. I'll teach a class there and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And whenever I take them to a place I've already taught at before or I've already lived, I'm not worried at all. Like, are you sure they're going to be okay going to this place? I'm like, Vicenza? Of course they are, man. They got the base there. They got all kinds of stuff. They miss American food. They can have that. I got my buddy Fernando there. I know the doctors that speaks English. I got the thing here. I know where the 24-hour pharmacy is. It's fine. And then everyone's like, oh, okay. But I go to a place I've never been before. I'm like, I'm doing research. I'm like, okay, let's make sure. And I think that's one of the things. If we can help people kind of just take down the nervousness from like a 5 to a 4, that makes a big difference. So,
is there a place that you've ever been tentative to visit, though, Mark?
North Korea.
There's a few North Korean videos out there, though, with some
I know,
millennials
but we usually
travel there.
Yeah, my thing is, there are some places that we would probably go pretty much anywhere. But since we have our kids, I'm always going to be a little hesitant. Like if there's any place that's in a war zone or close to a war zone, I don't want to take any chances. Though I don't really think anything will happen.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to take that chance. And the thing is, though, some people will say, well, you go to France all the time and they had all those attacks. I'm like, yeah. But I still feel comfortable going there. And the thing is sometimes you got to just push through. Like, I want to go these places because like we were in Rwanda recently, and a lot of people, when they think of Rwanda, they just think of the genocide from 1994, a million people massacred in 100 days. And I'm like, yeah, but that was 25 years ago. Like, I want to go, like, we've been inspired to go there. We went there. It was fantastic. The people are so friendly, so helpful. Like, the people have, like, come together and just grown so much. You're just like, my God, it's an example for the world of coming back together, getting through the tragedies and the horrors of that. And I'm like, you know what? It's also for me. It's like, look, you got to get out there. You got to show these things. Because a lot of times, I mean, there's simple things like if there's a big storm or wildfires where you guys are out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some people are like, well, they had the wildfires. I don't think we should go there. I'm like, well, if that place is based on tourism, if their economy is based on tourism and the tourists don't come back, how are they going to rebuild? Let's show them that's worth going to. I remember we went to Rio before the Olympics in 2016 because there was so much bad press about Brazil. I mean, I remember like it was, I mean, I put it in our video, some of our Brazil videos, like people were like, you're going to get there and they're going to shoot you and then you're going to get Zika and then you're going to get become a Zika zombie and then they're going to rob you and then they're going to shoot you again. I'm like, it's not that bad. Rio has issues. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But the whole country, there's some fantastic places to go there. Like go and explore Minas Gerais. Go down to the Pantanal. There's all kinds of things to see. And some people get so scared because the news, I mean, for them, like, it's always easier for them to show bad news. It's like our videos, love and hates, the don'ts. People like want to see that, and they're like, but there's good stuff too. So that's why we try to bring in them to show the beauty and the good stuff. Yeah. So look, still just some things there.
Rio's the type of place though that does get very negative media.
Yeah. And you know what? And for some of the things, it deserves it. I mean, it is. You have to know, like, but you can still go and enjoy. Like, you don't, like, for example, I always tell people, look, if you want to go to a safe beach, you go to Lemmy Beach. That is the safe beach when you're there. It's just from Copacabana, right down from there. You'll be fine. Okay, that's the place to go. That's where we stay when we go there. You can still explore stuff. Don't go out late at night. There's certain things you can do that you wouldn't do in your hometown either. And we actually had this kind of joke between my wife and I about the magic fanny pack. People think when they're a traveler, they kind of put on a magic fanny pack and nothing bad will happen to them. No one's going to steal my ID. No one's going to rob me. I'm not going to get sick. You mean the stuff that happens every day in the real life? I mean, this stuff, like real life stuff happens there too. But people, like wander into the street. Oh, I'm looking at these sites. Oh, I have to pay attention to traffic. Yes, you do. And it's the magic fanny pack. They put it on and people forget about things.
Because they forget
and
their
so sometimes we like to, Yeah, and you're like, hey, people, when even the places you go that are holiday destinations, there's still people having a real life there too, and I think that's another thing a lot of people get scared of. I mean, I used to live in Lithuania, and I had a person that didn't want to come visit us or visit me because they're like, well, do they have doctors there? I'm like, of course they have doctors there. Like people like, well, do they have diapers? I mean, this is like when we were living in Portugal, they're like, well, do they have diapers for a baby? I'm like, yeah, they have kids in Portugal. They wouldn't be Portuguese people if they didn't have babies. I mean, and the thing is, like, once you go there, you're like, oh, why was I thinking that? Because people don't know. And so if we can help get more travel information out there, more stuff out there for people, it's great because it helps them feel more comfortable and they're going to go travel and see more places.
Okay. Hey, Mark, can you tell me more about your life in Portugal? Because you've mentioned Portugal a few times, and I think I've read somewhere that you did, like you said, you lived in Portugal. Uh,
Yeah.
how long were you there, and why were you in Portugal?
So I did my PhD in Portugal.
Gotcha.
I was there for 5 years in Lisbon. I taught there obviously I taught there when I was doing my PhD as well.
Okay.
Really enjoyed my time there. Actually, my youngest son was actually born in Lisbon.
Wow.
So my wife ended up on 4 months bed rest. Had to spend a month in a hospital, Portuguese
Oh,
hospital, before he was born. It was a really tough time, but he came out okay. He's a good dude, so it all worked out in the end. But I mean, we had a lot of life experiences in that town, in that city, and it was a really good time. And I did my master's degree in Germany. I studied abroad in a few countries when I was in high school and in college and stuff like that. And then,
yeah.
worked abroad a lot of places. And so it's just been one place after another.
Fair. Does your son have a Portuguese passport or anything like that?
He
Or
can. We haven't gotten him one yet. We'll let him decide if he wants to get one or not.
okay, but does that mean he gets
So.
Portuguese citizenship from being
Yeah,
born
because
there?
and the thing is, it depends on the country where you were born. It also depends on what the law was in the country when you were born,
Okay.
kind of stuff like that. So it all depends. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
you can have you could have twin in some countries. You could have twins. One's born on the 31st of December at 11:59, and the other one's born at 12:01, and they could have different laws,
Yeah.
different rules for them. So.
No, fair enough. And have you seen a lot of Portugal, or you just stayed in Lisbon? You would have
Oh yeah.
gone
No,
to see a
no.
lot of
I actually
Portugal.
I went to Portugal like 10 times. I had friends there, and I
Wow.
would go
Okay.
visit them all the time. That's why when I was looking for my PhD program, I was actually looking in Brazil at first, and it was just crazy expensive. And I was like, I can't afford that. And then I found a program in Portugal that sounded pretty interesting, and it was affordable. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'd already been there a lot to Porto, and actually I've been all over the country. And then when I got to Lisbon, I mean, living in a city like Lisbon, everyone wants to come visit you. So you'd
Yeah.
come and they'd go explore the rest of the country. So they're like, oh, you want to come with? I'm like, yeah, sure. Or they go someplace I've already been enough times. Like, no, you guys go ahead. I'm good.
Have
So
you
yeah, I explored a lot of the
yeah.
country.
Oh, okay. Have you been to Coimbra?
Oh, of course. You
Because
got the
that's a
Cabo de
university
Costas,
town,
the
isn't it?
backbreaker. Yeah, it is a university town. The beautiful library there. If you go with the Queima das Feitas, where they like burn the capes, well, the feitas are like it's like a bookmark,
Okay.
like piece of paper, not piece of paper, like piece of cloth. And so they have all these things like ribbons. Sorry, it's like ribbons.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
they like burn the ribbons, and people are crazy drunk and they're running around, and it's a ccrazy time. If you can go during the graduation times, it's a fun time.
Fair enough. Yeah, I haven't been to Portugal yet, but I want to go so many times. I've thought,
Oh, it's
oh,
worth it, man.
when I was in France, I should have gone to Portugal. But my wife, she's Croatian background, and I'm half
Oh, cool,
French. So whenever we go to
cool.
Europe, we have to go to France. Well, we want to go to France, and we want to go to
It's
Croatia
awesome,
to see the families. And then we'll
of
plan like a
course.
couple of little side trips. So I've been to a fair few countries in Europe, but one place I've wanted to go to for a long time is Portugal and Lisbon. So that's definitely on my
But
itinerary one
it
day.
is well worth it. And if you're going to be like, if there's a lot of the EasyJet flights now, like Lisbon's one of their hubs, so
Okay.
you can actually get there for some of the cheap flights now too, pretty easily. I don't know where you guys are at in France, but
We're
they have a
everywhere in
few flights.
France.
Okay, because I know they have them from Paris. If you're like by the French speaking part of Switzerland, they've got flights from there.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of Portuguese there that you can get from there's because a lot of I actually when I taught in Portugal, I had a lot of Portuguese people that their families were actually in France. So there's a lot of connection there. So you can get for a weekend. Get a weekend. That's your next job. Next time you go, weekend is going to be in Lisbon.
So I could just
I'll
go
give you some
away for the
tips.
weekend. Perfect. And then just fly back
Yeah.
to Paris.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're and the thing is there. I mean, I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but like, yeah,
No, we don't.
leave the kids with the grandparents if you want. You guys go have a little weekend away. Maybe have some more kids coming. I don't know.
I've got two cats, but they're usually in
Hey,
Melbourne.
hey, you know what? Oh, they're usually about. Well, you can find another cat when you're there. You know.
Hey,
Cool.
how often are you away, Mark? Because I don't know from the looks of the amount of videos of different countries that you go to, it seems like you'd be away from home a lot,
Yeah, probably half the year.
half the year, and then half the year
Like
you're
we're
professing.
yep. And even during the teaching season, like if I'll have like a 4-day weekend, we might go someplace like, oh, we'll fly to, do a trip to New York for a long weekend. Cause finish class on Thursday, fly out Thursday night, and then fly back in Tuesday morning to get back just in time for class. Like I've actually had it where we came back and we flew in, we got in the car and we didn't even go home. Like it was an overnight flight. We came back from, where the heck were we? I think we were in South America and we were coming back and we got in and it was like, we got in the car right away. We had to like book it to get back home. My wife just drops me off at work, still in the clothes that I flew in the night before to go teach my class. I'm like, yeah, and I think we need to like plan this one a little bit better next time.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And being away a lot, how do you go about packing your bags, or does that change for every destination you go to and all that? And for how long
Not
you go away
so
for?
much. We have what we call our rule of 5. You just take 5 outfits, 5 underwears, 5 socks, 5 bottoms, 5 tops, and do laundry when you're away. I mean, I might throw in an extra pair of underwear just in case. So, because that's the thing is, we'll travel around and we'll just like see people these huge suitcases. Like, what are you like? We just did 7 weeks in Europe and East Africa, and we had 3 carry-on size bags. And then we'll see people that are going for a weekend away someplace and they've got like that massive suitcase. I'm like, what do you even I don't even own that many clothes. Like, what do you have in there? Well, I don't know what I'm going to wear. I might feel like wearing something else. I'm like, it's like a normal weekend. And I think people forget, like, look, when you go travel, wear the clothes you usually wear. Go be comfortable, excuse me, and do that because you don't need all the clothes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm going away soon to Asia for 3 weeks, so it's going to be hot and tropical everywhere I'm going to be. But I generally will always take about
maybe
10
bring
to
2
12
extra pairs of underwear else on that one, okay?
I will. But I always thought it was like a pair of undies for every day. So if you're away for 12 days, you need 12 undies. But I never think to myself, maybe I'll do half that and just wash them.
Yeah, and the thing is with because the underwear is a big thing you got to make sure you wash, because you can do shirts and definitely jeans, stuff like that, multiple days, no big deal. True. But it's the underwear because that's where you can get like not just stinky, but you can get if you're a female, there can be issues there. If you got kids, that can be issues there. Like because we'll go and if I've got 5 or 6 pairs, we'll wash a couple. Like the first couple of days, so we have some. In the case we don't have like a apartment that has a laundry, we don't find a laundromat or something like that. I'm like, look, I'm covered for the first week at least. So
yeah, and do you usually try and find accommodation where there is access to a laundry?
We will do that usually. Like for example, the 7-week one we did.
Yeah,
it was kind of like we wanted to make sure let's say every other place or every third place, we would want to make sure that we had laundry. Because some places didn't have, but that's why we'll do. Occasionally, we'll throw in like a apartment rental just to make sure we actually have laundry. Yeah. So, like for example, we were in Belgium. We had we were in Amsterdam. We did have laundry. Then we were in Belgium. We didn't have it. Luxembourg, we didn't have it. Then we got into Paris. We had it again. So it's like, okay, we can make it work. So it's kind of like the planning stuff out that way.
Okay, yeah. I do some Airbnb, but mainly it's hotels. So if I have to wash stuff, it's in the hotel basin. So
yeah,
and with a little bit of soap.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like when we used to do when it was just like the 2 of us going, or if I'm going for work, we usually if it's just 2 of us, or if it's just me for work. Like if I'm traveling on my own, because sometimes I go by myself or Jocelyn will go by herself. Then usually we're doing hotels. That way, it's just when we have the kids, like having that place you can go back to that's not just a bed and a tiny space makes all the difference with the kids.
And what about with the kids? Do they travel with you most of the time? And considering that,
they travel probably 75-80% of the time they're with us.
Wow. So how do you go with schooling?
Well, all their holidays were gone. Anytime they have like a 3-day weekend, we might take an extra day off here or there. Yeah. And they have very understanding teachers, because the kids come back and they bring so much to their class. Like I remember, we asked our kids' teachers, and they're like, "You don't understand. Your son, after like 2 weeks of class, we're like, hey, we're going to be gone next month for a couple of days." They're like, "Oh, where are you going to go?" And they're so excited. It's like, no, they bring that back to class and they talk about it. And sometimes our kids have actually gotten in trouble, not because they were gone, But like our oldest one, he got in trouble from the librarian because they were supposed to be doing like a research game. Like, oh, you have to look in the encyclopedia. Like, what's the capital of Iceland? He's like, Reykjavik. And she's like, no, you have to look it up. It's like, I've been there. It's Reykjavik. And so she's doing all these geography questions. She's already been to all the places. Like, what's the famous, cake in Vienna? He's like, Sackertorte. It's not very good. He gets in trouble because he's not looking it up. It's like, but I already know it. And I still remember when he went to first grade, his first day of school, I was so upset with his teacher because he was at a new school. And he goes in, he comes back, and he's crying when he comes out of class. I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, my teacher called me a liar. I'm like, what? It's your first day in front of the whole class? And I go, what happened? It's like, I told her I've been to all these countries. And she said, don't lie to class. And I walked straight back to the teacher and said, look, we run a travel blog. This kid has been to all these countries. We do this all the time, and he's going to miss some class. And the teacher was like, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm like, well, that's what we do. And she's like, I'm sorry, kid. I'm like, no, you need to apologize in front of all the kids because all the kids are going to think he's a liar because the teacher called him a liar on the first day.
That's
so there's been some things. But in general, I mean, teachers and administrators have been very supportive of it just because they bring so much back to the classroom. So
yeah,
and also we always make sure we let the teachers know, so we have their homework with them. They're not missing those things, and then I will teach them the stuff there. Like if it's math or science, I'll do that. My wife will do the English and like history stuff. So
well, they're lucky that they've got you as parents.
Yes, you can remind them of that next time you talk to them.
I will. Next time I see them, I'll tell them how lucky they are. I know I was right.
12-year-old. Anybody that has a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, they understand. Yeah, they understand.
True. So is your oldest 13?
He'll be 13 next month.
Wow. Geez, I've been watching you for a few years, so it's funny to see him grow up. And the kids are growing up throughout all your videos as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm putting together some new Paris videos because I did a scams to Paris video. I did a mistakes I haven't put them out yet, but I'm like putting things in like, oh yeah, I got pictures and video from this one spot where I knew this happened and where I'm talking about in the video. Yeah. And I go in there and there's Jocelyn teaching Liam how to walk. Liam is 8 years old.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, okay, I can put that in there. But he was like, dang, We've taken these kids a lot of places, so it's been a great thing. And I think, and that's another thing. I think a lot of people. I mean, going off a sidetrack, a lot of people when they think they have kids. I mean, I'll see people like, "Oh, we're pregnant. Might as well burn my passport." I'm like, "Why?"
Oh, I hear that all the time, Mark.
Go show them the world, and they're like, "Well, they're not going to remember." I'm like, yeah, they might not remember, but you will remember, and you'll remember when you took your kids to these places when they were little, and you'd be surprised how little things like traveling when they're really little influences them later on in life to try other foods, other things like that, and you'd be surprised. I remember when Liam was like 5, he was talking about some stuff we did in China when he was 2. I'm like, wait, you remember that? He's like, yeah, the buns, and I would eat the bun, but I hated the stuff inside, and I remember shoveling rice in. And remember when I smashed my hand and went to the hospital? I'm like, yes, you never forget going to the hospital in China with your little kid when you thought they're going to lose their hand. But yeah, I'm glad you remember that too. So it's kind of cool. That's what we always really promoted. Like we're speaking this week at a library speaking event. And it's just about family travel. The first thing we're going to say is take your kids traveling. And the thing is, for a lot of people, they'll be like, well, I don't have the money to travel. And I'm like, look, traveling doesn't mean going across the world. Traveling can mean taking your kids to the local history museum. Let them learn about their own area, because then they're used to going to the museums. It sparks that interest to learn, and that's going to spark them wanting to travel and see other things later in life. So it's not that you have to go to Paris every year, but you know what? Maybe go to the local museum or the local park, the state park that's nearby, or the national park, something like that. There's so many cool things you can do that kind of can spark that interest.
Well, I reckon that's why my interest was sparked at a very early age, because Mum and Dad would travel a lot, and they would travel with us. And we'd be in Paris as 5-year-olds. I even grew up in Paris. Oh, well, not in Paris, but in this small little town called Barbizon, which is in, I think it's southwest of Paris. That's where, my mum came from, Angers, which is a little town. Yeah. I don't know if you've been to Angers, but I just remember my parents always taking myself and my 2 other brothers with us on holidays. And I would come back from holiday and tell the kids in front of class what I did as well. Very similar to what your boys have done. And I think that's why I'm addicted to travel now. And I'm 39 and I still travel. There's reasons why I don't have children. And if and when I do have children, I won't be scared to take them with me overseas. And I've had so many people say that, oh, Ben, once you have kids, mate, don't expect to be traveling much anymore. Because I think some people are a little bit jealous of how much I travel, but I only travel because I work hard and I love it.
Yeah. And you make choices. I mean, people ask us, we get one of the most common questions we get on our page is, how do you pay for all this? Like, how do you do this? I'm like, well, I have a job. Like, I work my butt off at my teaching job. And then I run, I have 2 YouTube channels that I work my butt off of to help people. And, I work. It's not like this, like, oh, here's some free stuff.
No,
it's like, you got to make choices. Like we haven't had cable. Like my wife and I, since we've been married, we've never paid for cable. We've never had cable. Like no, that's not true. In the first apartment we had in Portugal, there was cable there, but it was included in the apartment. So like since we've been in the US the last 10 years, we have not had cable at all.
Yeah.
It's like right there. Think about, like, I don't know how much it is in Australia, but in the US, not having cable saves you $150, $200 a month. Think about that. That's $2,400, $2,500 a year. I mean, dude, that's a lot of money. That's a family of 4 going to Ireland in September. I mean, I can't do that. Like, we only just got our second car recently. Like, we made it to have 1 car, and we don't go out and eat so often. Like, look, why go out to the pasta place here when I can save up and we go eat pasta in Italy next year? Yeah, those little things like help you keep going. So you just find the things where to prioritize.
Yeah, you just have to prioritize and make allowances for things. And if you're a good saver and if you're smart with your money, you can go anywhere in the world. And I think traveling is much better for the soul and better for you as a person than sitting in front of a television, after you get back from work every night.
Oh, I agree. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I mean, I would, I love the TV. And then as I've gotten older, it's like, I mean, I don't miss it. I remember we had the aerial, so we had public television that would come in here. And there was one channel, it's called Create. And it's basically, it's the public television version of like Home and Garden TV or DIY do-it-yourself TV and the Food Network combined. But it's like the quality level is not fancy. This is like, like basically basic kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, that was the only channel we watch. And then they switched up. We don't have it anymore. And I mean, I don't remember the last time I put the antenna on. Now, we do have Netflix, so I can't say we don't have anything. But like, I'm like, it's Netflix, or we're just let's just do something else. So
that's all you need anyway. Netflix has got everything. Unless you're a big sport fan, then you need something to fill that gap.
Yeah.
But
well, luckily I'm not a big sports fan, so.
Lucky you're not. I don't mind sport. But I was going to say, Mark, have you got any tips for people that are traveling with kids or want to travel with a 1 to 5 year old or even 10-year-olds? Have you got any good tips for people?
Yeah, I would say one of the things people make a mistake is they don't get the kids involved in the planning process. They're just like, we're going here, and the kids are like, and anytime you do anything with a kid where they don't know, kids like routines. That's why they like to nap at the same time, bedtime at the same time. That's why they like having their chicken nuggets all the time, because it's the routine. And the thing is, if you get the kids into the planning phase, then it's not a surprise if they're a part of that, And so one thing I always say is like, if there's some places you want to see, like, for example, like we're going to go to London. All right. We can go to, we go to Buckingham Palace. We can go to the Tower of London, or we can go to the British Museum. We're going to go to all of them. But why don't we let the kids, like, hey, which would you like to see? Would you like to see where the Queen lives? Would you like to see the spooky tower? Or do you want to see mummies? Like, what would be interesting to you? And you let the kid, like, pick, and then you can show them a couple of videos of it, and they'll get all excited. And they're like, okay, today's your day. We're going to your museum. It's not me taking my kids to a museum. We're going to their museum, and they get excited for that. And so that's one thing, is getting them involved in the process really helps. I'm not saying let them choose everything. I mean, we do actually let our kids choose one trip a year, at least one trip a year where we go. So they usually do a good job. But you want to have some, like, hey, don't let them pick anything. Like, here, choose from those 3. Here are some things to look at. That's one thing. Another thing I would say is if you could see, like, movies or cartoons or something like that are based in the countries or the cities you're going to be going to.
Oh yeah.
If before you go, to kind of give the kids an idea to do that, like showing Ratatouille before you go to Paris. Oh my God, that's like the perfect movie because it talks about the food and how important it is and how there's all this different stuff. So the kids are like, oh, I need to try new things. And then you go and it has the Eiffel Tower pop up and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's just like in the movie. Yeah, I remember our oldest, we back in the day, pre-Netflix, when he moved into Portugal and stuff, and we had a DVD player, and we had like some old DVDs of like Bugs Bunny. And there's this Bugs Bunny where he and Yosemite Sam are in ancient Rome, and they're at the Colosseum, and they're gladiators and stuff like that. And we went to Rome, and we told Kevin we're going there. He was so excited. He's like, "It's from my cartoon! It's from my cartoon!" And it's little things like that gets kids excited to go. That's all you really need to do, you know. And the thing is kids travel easy. It's the parents that have the problems, and that's why when you see kids acting up on planes and stuff like that, that's because the parents aren't doing their job. That's not the kids' fault. That's the parents' fault, like right there. And I think another thing, another people get worried about picky eaters. One thing I'll say, picky eaters are the same, whether the kids or the grandparents having traveled, multi-generational travel. You have multiple kinds of picky eaters. So what I usually tell parents is like, look, make sure you're going to like that. If you're going to be going down to Cancun, you know, go to the Mexican restaurant near your place a few times before you go. Have them try other foods, you know, for those things. Or maybe they get their food, but you start trying other foods so they get to try experiment some of the stuff. So when you get down there, they're like, oh, I will try that quesadilla that you had, Mom. Let's see what it's like here. That kind of opens them up a little bit because it's not something, you know, new. It's something they've already heard of. Because kids, I mean, I don't want it. Oh, it's ice cream. Oh, yes, I'll have it because they know what ice cream is, you know? Yeah. So having those things can really help. And sometimes all you need to do is maybe you cook some of those stuff at home. Like we made meatballs the other night. The youngest one and my wife made meatballs. And the thing was like, no, you need to learn how to make it. So then he's like, I made these. You know, it's like, hi, I made this. And so he wants to eat it. And so if the kids can make some of the food from there, it's like, oh, these are a little different than the pasta noodles I made, Mom. You're like, that's right. Let's see if theirs are as good as yours, little boy. And then, you know, do that. And so you do these things.
The food competitions. I love it.
Yep. Yeah, kids love those things too. And so it's kind of like.
Do your kids get into looking at other YouTubers or travel YouTubers?
Travel YouTube? No.
Or do they watch you?
No, they don't watch me either. I think occasionally they do because I'll go and turn on their phone so I get another view, I guess. I don't know. No, my oldest is 12, so he listens to music, like, you know, viral videos and stuff like that. And actually he will because he's watched some of our videos, some of the other travel videos will pop up. So we'll check out some of those. So he'll mention some things to me like, hey, Dad, you should go to this place or check this out. Yeah. My youngest one, though, he's more of a Netflix guy. But when he used to be in YouTube, it was like watching Minecraft and stuff like that. So.
Oh, yeah, as they all do. They all love Minecraft.
Yes. Yeah, Minecraft, so Fortnite. Well. Yep.
Talking about Minecraft and large cliffs. You mentioned earlier, Mark, about the guys that somersault off cliffs and all that crappy drone footage.
Yeah.
You know what? I hate it. I really hate it. And I'm glad you mentioned it earlier because I was going to talk to you about it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's cool. It's cool to do that, but here's the thing: is like you're not a travel video. You're doing backflips. You're showing off. Tell me something about it, like because I'll be honest. There's some really beautiful travel videos out there, but it's beautiful because I'm looking at it. They're not adding any education to it or help me understand what I'm seeing. They're just showing me beautiful pictures, which is awesome. Which I will do that sometimes. I mean, I'll just turn the sound off and just watch. That's gorgeous, but I'm not actually learning anything about it. So like. Ours, on the other hand, I'm a professor, so mine is like overly educational. It's like a lecture with pictures or videos over the top. So, I mean, I know I'm not perfect either, but what I get worried about, and this is actually more of an Instagram thing, is like people putting themselves in bad situations because they want to make a cool picture or a cool video or something like that.
Instagram,
you know, like let's sit on the edge, and and I mean. Yeah, and you'll see people. I was in Vienna, and these girls were like, "Oh, we got to get this perfect picture of this castle or the palace." I'm like, it says no grass. Like you stepped over this sign that says do not go on the grass. And so I have pictures of them like getting their pictures while they're sitting on the grass you're not supposed to be on. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And then it was funny. We were in Paris, and I was filming part of a video that we're actually making. It's not making, it's making fun of all the Instagram pictures. I got to have the flowy dress and the floppy hat, or the follow me, hold my hand video, or
Yes.
picture, or there's the unrealistic, like, I'm having this picnic here on the Great Wall when no one's around. I'm like, dude, there's never a time when you're on the Great Wall where there's not a million people around. That is not real
True.
life. And it was funny because they were all lined up, and I'm like taking all these pictures, like, this is too good. And so I put my camera up to film, and like while I'm filming, there's another couple that's kind of behind me, and they're getting their like make out kiss, like the perfect romantic kiss in Paris
God.
picture. But like he's got the timer on, and they're like sucking face for like 5 minutes to get the picture. They're not. They're just like acting like they're kissing to do that. And I'm not kidding. The next like towel over is the girl with the picnic basket, like having the baguette kind of stuff, like in the bit neck stuff. And then the next one is the jump picture. The next one is the I'm here, looking off contemplatively in the distance picture. It was so funny. And the thing is, it's cool to do those. I tell people, like, no, do them. You're supposed to hold up the Eiffel Tower, put the pyramids on your shoulders. It's great. But it's sometimes I kind of laugh at it sometimes when it's people that are travel influencers and stuff like this. Like we all can take those pictures, and it's cool how they influence people in terms of inspire them to travel, which is great. But like, add something to it. Don't just put it like, here's me looking cute, or here's me looking like a stud, in front of this site. Put some information on there. Like, let me know, like, what's your workout routine, or like, what are the hours to the Eiffel Tower, or hey, why don't you tell them about the huge new barriers that are all around the bottom of the Eiffel Tower, so you can't walk underneath it anymore unless you're going to get a ticket and go in. Like, put something else out in there than doing that. And I think with so many of these things out there, and they're on YouTube and they're on Facebook and all these other things, I think it's getting harder and harder for people to find actually like good information on travel. Because it's hard to get through, because those pictures, they still are really cool. I still subscribe to them and still, look at them and stuff like that. But it's hard to find the real information now. So,
absolutely. All they have to do is do a little bit of research, and then their video's gone from being kind of okay to good.
Yeah,
or something like that. Or
that's
their
all it is. And
pictures
what's
even.
cool. Yeah, and that's the thing is I've seen some YouTube channels that actually have evolved, and that's one thing I like about YouTube. Like, you'll follow channels, see how they change over time. You're like, oh, I'm so proud of them. They've done so well, and then they're doing such good stuff now, and it's really a nice thing. Like, there's a couple from down your way called Flying the Nest, and I remember watching their videos when they had like 10,000 subscribers. I'm like, oh, you're making some mistakes, you're doing some stuff, but you know what? I see where you're going to go. I'm really excited for you. And now they've got probably more subscribers than I do, And I'm like, I'm so happy for them, because I'm like, man, you've really evolved into, instead of like, here's us making mistakes traveling, to here's the mistakes we made. Here's how you don't make those mistakes so you can have a better time when you travel. I'm like, oh, that is so awesome.
Are they called Fly in the Nest, are they? Or something like that. I'll have to look them up. Mm-hmm. I've never heard of them. Are they from Australia?
Yeah. I think she's from Australia. I think he's like Australian, South African, something like that.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Hey, have you seen that recently? You've got a certain amount of Instagram influencers and people going to Chernobyl and spending way too much time there, as in they're spending more time than what they should be because of the radiation sickness that they could possibly get.
Yeah, we have this thing called the Darwin Awards.
Yeah, I know that.
For people doing stupid stuff. Yeah, here's the thing is that's one thing I always find funny is you'll see like this is the new place to go, like Iceland, like it was Spain, then it was Portugal, then it was Iceland, then it was Costa Rica, and there was what's the new place now? Now they're trying to really push the stands, like Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan.
Oh, the stands.
And so all the travel vloggers are going there.
Yeah,
yeah, and so like that's the new thing, and I'm like, that's cool, but it's kind of like, well, we've got all this content here. Let's make a new place cool so we can make videos about it and we can push people to travel there. So it's a new place to go. And I'm like, well, there's still the old places to go to. Like, there's a reason why so many people still go to Venice. There's still a reason why so many people go to, Paris and stuff like that. And it's just interesting how these places can become popular almost like overnight. And you'll see like what they'll do is they'll invite like a whole bunch of bloggers at one time to come. And I've been invited to these things too, a few times too. And I'm like, usually my schedule doesn't work. So I got my job, and then we plan on our trips, 6 months in advance. And they're like, hey, could you come next week on this trip to Kazakhstan? I'm like, No, because I'm going to Savannah, Georgia to see, some family. So I can't do it. But yeah, I know there'll be, so I know, there'll be a ton of videos coming out from this place. Like you might have noticed there's a bunch of travel blogs and travel videos from, Trentino and Torino and stuff like that in Italy, because there was a big travel conference there, so
okay.
it's interesting to how to see it. And those things are very effective because people don't know. It's like, well, I don't know where to go. And I see a travel blogger talk about this place. That sounds pretty cool. Let's do it. So I can understand why these places do that to draw tourism in.
Absolutely. Mark, in relation to just travel, general travel, has there been any destinations that have overly surprised you, either for the good or the bad?
Nicaragua. I was surprised how much we really enjoyed Nicaragua. We went there. Granada, Nicaragua was just a gorgeous town. People are fantastic. I just really enjoyed it. Like Jocelyn's like, let's get a house here and just move here. Like she was so happy.
Really?
I'll tell you, we were just
Wow.
we were just in Rwanda, last month, and I mean the people there you couldn't have asked for nicer people, happier people, like help you out. It was just fantastic. I mean, we thought we'd like it, but I didn't think we'd love it, and we just loved it. And Tanzania was fantastic too. So those ones, the nature in Iceland, even though you still have all those influencers and all those Instagram pictures coming and stuff like that, it still is a fantastic, amazing place to go. That's another place that I really, really enjoyed. I think for the boys, they still, like, for them, like Costa Rica, something they still love a lot. But I think Tanzania, Rwanda actually Rwanda probably better for Caleb, because he's a big soccer guy. And so he brought soccer ball with him. And so we were going and playing soccer with the local kids, and you could just see how happy he was doing that. And we ended up, we'd just buy a ball and give it to the village. And it was so cool because the kids were like, no, you got to give it to the village elder. And so like this old guy will come out, and so we give the soccer ball to him, and they're like, okay, he's going to watch the ball for us. Thank you. We go buy another soccer ball, and then we go and play soccer someplace else. So it's just a really wonderful place. And the thing is Rwanda still, it still suffers the after effects of the genocide. But the thing is they've come so far, but people still are stuck. It's 25 years ago, the genocide. I have to go through the comments on my Rwanda videos and delete stuff because it's just like, you're like, that's just not right, guys. Come on. So
what are they saying?
Oh, things I don't really want to repeat on here. So
fair enough.
Just inappropriate, how the trolls will be the trolls, and then there's the people that they just go on there to say things that you're like, come on, no human being would say stuff like that. You're like, that's just not right. So
I've done some videos with this guy called Chris Rainey from Yellow Productions. Don't know if you know of him.
Oh
yeah. So he's a good.
I don't know him personally. I've seen their stuff.
He's a good guy, and he makes some really fun YouTube videos. But we've been in a few videos together, and I've had some people saying nasty stuff about myself. So I just tell him, and he just deletes them straight away because I don't want to see that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I remember we used to get. I remember back in the day when I would get death threats and stuff like this. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm like, you gotta be kidding. And so like, then Jocelyn has only done a few videos because like she'll get like horrible comments too, and she gets upset. Like, dude, it's trolls. You just gotta let it go. Yeah. And she's getting better now with it. Like now I'm like, oh, just delete, hide from channel, stuff like that. So
it's annoying though that you have to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is, we'll do live feeds, and and I haven't had to do moderators with it, but like the last 2 months, we've gotten to the point like you get so many of the random people coming in just saying totally inappropriate things about my wife or the kids or people that are watching the videos or place we're talking about. And so it's like I gotta figure out how to get some more moderators on here, because you can only click so quickly to hide comment or delete comment and stuff like that. So
yeah, that would be pretty annoying. Hey, in regards to your Africa videos, just letting you know, Mark, I haven't watched any of them yet, but I will.
Oh, all right.
I will.
Well, we'll have a bunch coming out. We've got mistakes in Rwanda, mistakes tourists make when they go to Rwanda, first impression of Rwanda, tipping Rwanda. We've got how to see the Big Five in the Serengeti.
Yes.
That's a good one. We just did one on some basic Swahili. This weekend, I think we'll put out the shocks of Rwanda. I'm putting together the don'ts of safari travel. So we got some more stuff coming. So we'll get you ready.
How many hours a day, Mark, do you spend editing videos, mate?
Oh God, I don't. It's too many.
too many, because I would think
Too many.
alongside being a professor, that would be a lot of time anyway.
It is.
And
The
oh,
video
geez.
editing is super time consuming, but at least now when I film, I'm like, because if I do the video and then I'm thinking about what did I say in the video, then
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, when I'm going around the city, like, is there something that represents that? So instead of putting up like 10 pictures, I can put up one like 15-second little background video. And so I started to do that more with the background videos
yeah.
versus just pictures, because then that right there, it saves me an hour at least on maybe 2 hours on every video.
And
Because
do you
I
do
have
all
so
your
many videos.
yeah.
I have so many videos that I filmed that I have to put together. That's like I wouldn't have to travel for 2 years, and I could still put out 2 or 3 videos a week. I'm like, and part of me is like, man, I need to get all these out. But I'm like, the other part is like, but I want to have a life.
Well, that's right. I
So
mean, but you have a life, don't you?
yeah,
You go out, you do stuff without having to bring a
yeah,
camera with you, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
And what
So,
about
but
when you
it's
are
just
traveling though?
yeah.
Is there some days you go, "Oh, stuff it, I'm not bringing the camera because I just want to enjoy Paris, for instance. I just want to smell the smells,
Yes, I
eat the
actually
food
I
without
did
the
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And the thing
important."
is though, I always have my phone with me, so I can always get that way too. But I'm like, I'm
Oh,
not taking anything out. And so Jocelyn will be like, "Oh, thank you, you're not taking your camera." Like, no. So actually, now what I've started to do, because I'll let Jocelyn, the kids, kind of sleep in, and I'll film
yeah,
actually in the morning. So I'll get up at like 6, get cleaned up, breakfast, get my stuff together, and then I'll head out and I'll film from 7 to like 9, 10, because usually not too busy by then. And then I
yeah,
go back and get the kids. Then we do the tourist stuff, so I don't have to film when I'm out with the kids. Because back in the day, when I would film any kind of video, from like language videos to what to do's and things to see, and here's a different thing about food, there were just so many things. And now it's like, wait, why don't we just focus on what people really need to know? And that's where the don'ts, shocks. That's where, excuse me,
mm,
and then like what you need to know before you go to a country. I'm always doing those because like
mm,
those are the ones that are going to help the most people. Let's focus on that instead of the other stuff. So we've dropped a lot of the other videos because people have asked a lot, like, hey, like our subscribers that have been there for a long time are always asking, can we get some more love and hate videos? And I'm like, we could do some more of those, but I think the don'ts and the shock videos help more people. So sometimes you have to make cuts, and like the love and hate videos haven't made the cuts a lot lately because I'm like, I want to go experience this culture more. Because if I'm only filming, I'm not experiencing the culture either. So I'm
yeah.
like,
That's what I
I want to
thought.
go out and experience it more. So like this trip, we were in Paris the last 6 days, and I only filmed I think one morning, and then we went to meet Jocelyn when she was at a painting class. Liam had done, and I had done a makeup macaron class, and Caleb and Jocelyn did a painting class by Notre
Nice.
Dame. And so Liam and I, like it was a kids one, so we were done like at 11, and theirs went till 2. So we went down looking for them, and they like, oh, we still have more time. Like, well, I guess I could film here, and I filmed then while the kids played. But it's funny if I were to think back, if I would have spent 6 days in Paris, even 2 years ago, I probably would have
Yeah.
made 30 videos. And this time, I think I only made like 4 or 5. Well, yeah, 5, and then a couple, like in 2 business videos. So 7 videos instead of 30. But
Mm.
I got to enjoy the city more, and I got to do stuff. So
Yeah, but do you ever feel though, Mark, when you have left your video gear at home, do you have that FOMO moment where fear of missing out? You've seen something that you really wanted to film and go, "Ah, crap."
luckily that's why I try to get a new phone every couple of years, so that's why
Yeah,
I always have my phone with me with the charger, so I can always like, that's like my safety valve. But the thing is,
yeah,
I know, like, man, this would be such a better video and such a better picture if I had my good camera with like the lens.
yeah.
So yeah, I won't lie. There has been a few times where I'm like like scratching my leg, like I could be making a video right now. This would be perfect. Oh my god, this is a perfect shot. This would be great.
And
It's
then
like we're at like,
you
and
can't.
it's always like we're at some restaurant. The people are so nice.
Yeah,
Like, oh, you should make one of your videos here. I'm like, I would, but we leave
but I
tomorrow, and my
can't.
videos at home. And I'm like, damn
And then poor old Mark is crying.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So yeah,
cute.
but I never let Jocelyn see. Like, she's like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm so proud you didn't actually didn't do this stuff. I'm like, yep,
yep.
yep, didn't even think about it. Just sat back and relaxed.
Where are you off to next, Mark? Are you off to next somewhere with the
So
kids and wife?
yeah, we're going to go to Savannah, Georgia for a little while, just for
Savannah,
a short
Georgia.
little
Some
jaunt.
of the best
Yeah.
accents in the world.
Oh, heck yeah, heck yeah. And
I
then
love
my
that
next
accent.
my next international trip, I'm going to Scotland with my mom.
Oh, wow.
She's got
Cool.
into all the genealogy stuff, and so she found my great 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 grumpity grumps house and church. He was a pastor, and so she found the church he
Wow.
preached at, and his house and his grave on the Shetland Islands. So we're going to go fly to the Shetland Islands
Oh, wow.
in middle of nowhere, Northern Sea between Scotland and Norway. So we're going to
I
go up
think
there.
I think the Shetland Islands is one of the shortest flights you can take in the world. Domestic
Oh yeah, because
flights
they
in
have
the
the ones
world.
going between the islands. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
really cool.
yeah, so we'll have some videos for that, and I'm trying to do experiment some other stuff because I see like my mom and a lot of her friends are really big into the genealogy stuff, and you see as people get older, they start wondering like, where am I from and stuff like this. So I think
Yeah.
we'll try to do is like us kind of be like, hey, well, here's some of the basics for doing your own genealogy research, but also if you want to just have a genealogy trip, like there's a lot of people when they're like, where should I go on my first trip abroad? I'm like, well, where's your family from? Like, why don't you figure out where your family's from and go back and see the homeland? You know, whether it's your family's from Costa Rica or they're from Krakow. I mean, it's really cool. You go back and you see, you're like, oh yeah. Like my buddy, I took him to Prague a few years ago
Yeah.
when we went together, and we were going in on the train. He's like, my God, this is just like where I grew up. I can see why the Czechs moved to where we live because it looks just like this. And I remember when the first time we went to Germany, and my town I'm from, there's a lot of German immigration from northern Germany. And I went to northern Germany, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm back home in the historic part of town, all the red brick buildings and stuff. So
Wow. Wow. And Mark, I think I really need to ask you this, but are you a Francophile? Is France your favorite country in the world? Because I just feel every video I watch of yours, every second video, every third video actually is a France video.
see, people mention that. I don't know why, because I guess I did say I'm a Francophile in a few videos.
You did say that. You
I did
you
say that
did.
a few times.
You did,
Well,
buddy.
I did on multiple videos. Yes, no, we love France, and it's not just Paris. Like that's one thing. I I I remember a few years ago we were in Normandy, and this was after like there was multiple attacks had happened, and I was talking to some of the people that worked in tourism, and they were crying. I mean, crying because they were so happy we were there. Like, thank you for
Oh,
coming
that's
because
cute.
we've lost all of our business, we've lost all this stuff. Like, this is such a great country with such wonderful people, and people just get this bad impression because, like, look, the waiters in Paris suck. They're not
Yes,
French. Well, they're
they
French,
do.
not the French people. And actually, the waiters in Paris have gotten better because of later. It's been nice, but it's just amazing. I'm like, yeah. So yes, I'm a big fan of France. So yes, the short answer to that long answer is yes.
Okay,
Love
so
France.
I've got some final questions for you and some Facebook questions
Oh,
because we've been going
okay,
about an hour and 10 minutes, which is fantastic. I love chatting to you.
cool.
But I know your time is, what's the term? Your time is something or other.
It's
It's valuable.
7:46.
It's valuable to you. So,
my God, wow. First ever said that to me. I'm like, that is not what would have come to my mind. But I'm
really?
glad.
Okay, so the final questions. Here we go. They're going to be.
All right.
This is going to be 3 quick fires, and I've got some Facebook
Okay.
questions for you. So, if you
Okay.
could travel anywhere in the world now, where would you like to be?
Place I have not been is Egypt, and I'm booking some tickets for them this weekend.
Fantastic. Have you found some cheap flights?
I found flights.
Okay, so they've been expensive flights. Second question, and
Well,
what would you?
they're not bad. They're not bad.
They're not bad.
So.
They're not bad. Okay, so and what would you be eating or drinking? Now, you don't have to be eating or drinking Egyptian food. I just want to know, what would you like to be eating or drinking if you could be eating or drinking something?
Right now, I would love to have some bigili con arna, which is a egg noodle pasta from Veneto region with a duck
Yum.
ragu sauce. Oh, so
Yum.
good. And then I either go with a Schifferhofer, which is this German beer I really like, or a Spritz Aperol.
Yeah, that's nice.
I like
it's
nice
that.
stuff. I like that one. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
this is why we get along so well, buddy.
Do you like espresso martinis as well?
No, those I
Oh,
I don't like
shit.
any coffee stuff though. So
Really? You don't
I
like
guess we weren't
coffee?
separated at birth. No,
No. Well, I
I
reckon
never
we
had. Like
were.
the smell change.
Yeah,
You took the coffee flavors and
exactly. I took the coffee, you took the Schofferhofer and the other thing you mentioned.
there you go.
Okay, so the third quickfire question for Mark Walters is what's your favorite country and city and why?
Oh, favorite country and see that's a tough one. I think, as I tell people, if you speak Portuguese, Brazil's my favorite place to go because the people are so fun and just
Yep.
crazy. But if you don't speak Portuguese, then no, I would not say it was Brazil. I think for me, the one I can always go back to, I can always go back to Italy. I can always go back to France too. But city, I can always go back to. I could always go back to Paris.
Yeah.
I don't have to go
I
see a
thought you'd say
site.
that.
I can just go stay in a part. Yeah, of course you. I can just go to an apartment and just go down to Boulangerie, get some stuff, drink my wine, go to the local restaurant, practice my
Oh.
horrible French. That'll be great.
I'm sure your French isn't that bad, and I can't wait to go back to France and go to a boulangerie. You said that beautifully
Oh,
too. Your French is actually quite good because you said ratatouille earlier,
mhm.
and in Australia, some very common Australian people will say ratatouille, and then I've got to be like, yeah, mate, you've said that wrong. It's not ratatouille, it's ratatouille.
All you do is you put the GIF up of like from the movie when he gives it to him. See, it's just that you just put that on there and just walk away.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so these are the Facebook questions. We've got 4 coming at you. All right,
Okay.
here we go. This question 1 of the Facebook questions. What have been some of your most heartwarming moments whilst traveling? And that was asked by Karina J.
Heartwarming moments. One thing I love. Oh God, I still remember this. First time I was away from Liam and Caleb for a long time. I taught in Europe for a month, and it's one of those like go teach and you can make some money and do that. And I remember I was gone for like just under 4 weeks, and I get back to the airport. Jocelyn, Caleb, Liam are all there, and Liam. I mean, he was probably. I mean, like one and a half, just and he's just like she's holding him in the baby carriage and he's just kicking and screams like gaga gaga gaga. You can see how happy he was to see me. Of course, now they're like they don't give a crap about dad, but then that was one of the
Oh,
ones I'm like oh, that was a wonderful one. I
yeah.
think that was one thing. And then anytime I see like soldiers coming home with their families, that always just tears me up every time, kind of stuff
Oh,
like families getting back together. That's what gets me. That's what I think I love about travel. It's like you get a chance, you go and you come back, or you're seeing people you haven't seen for so long. It's like you're like, oh, just that happiness that comes with it. It's very
that's what I
heartwarming.
love
So
about airports is seeing
yeah,
people
exactly.
meet up with their families, and it makes me quite emotional when I see someone hugging someone for the first time in a long time, and you can
Yeah.
see that they're just
Or if
so
you like
happy to be reunited.
grandma and grandpa are there, and the baby comes, the
Yeah,
grandkids are like, oh, you can just see it. It's awesome.
so cute, so cute. All right, they were great answers. So, second question is, what are the best moments you've captured and put up onto YouTube? Asked by Kylie P.
I think one of my favorite ones I have, oh, actually, my favorite videos I make every year are a 12 Days of Christmas video. And we sing the
Oh,
12 Days of Christmas song, but we change all the words. So it's like,
yeah.
on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a traveling family, and we'll sing it in different places around the world. But for every single day, every single time, it's different. So there'll
Oh,
be,
wow.
60 some different countries and cities in the videos we'll do. And every year trying to come up with new stuff. And it's fun to look back because we've done it 2015, 16, 17, 18. We're halfway through with 2019. I still got some more to do for it. But those are the ones that I watch. I'm like the most proud of. They don't get watched. It's one of those ones
Yeah,
that our subscribers and our real fans, like they're like, we love seeing these. Like for them,
yeah.
it's not like it's going to get even 50,000 views, but like let alone millions of views. But that's the one that just like I'm so proud that we do. And then I also when we go to places like Nicaragua or that,
Yeah.
like great place that people are scared to go to, Rwanda. Those are the ones I'm most proud of. So I'm showing people like, look, these are cool places you can go see. You don't have to be freaked out. Do your research. Go on, be ready to come here. It's cool to let people know that these places are okay. Like those are the ones I'm most proud of, like helping people, the ones that help people the most, and those Christmas ones.
Well, as long as people feel safe, then I think that's all that matters. Then they will travel
Yeah.
to said destination.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So I've got question 3 for you, Mark. And it is, where is the one place you visited and you always keep returning to? Another question asked by Kylie P.
Vicenza, Italy. I keep going back again and again. It's funny because I met. Okay, so I was fishing for piranha, and this Italian guy was. I was fishing for piranha in Brazil,
Wow.
and there was this Italian guy fishing for piranha in Brazil, like at the same camp I was at. And we just said, "Hey, dude, what's up?" Started talking then, like just hey, what up? We ended up like doing a float down the river. And we both almost got like eaten up by a jacaré, like an alligator kind of stuff together. It really bonded us. And we went from like 2 random guys that met at a camp in Brazil to now we visit each other at least once a year since 2006. Like I was just back and he's in Vicenza. And so I'll go see him. I go see him by myself. Our families are good friends. Like I just keep ending up back there again and again. And that's where I have that biggerly canana, the stuff I like to eat. That's where that's from. That's where I got that. So that's one of those random towns I end up back to. And then I think Bamberg, Germany is another place I always randomly end up back in that I really enjoy.
Okay. Fair enough. I haven't been to. Did you say Where was that place in Germany?
Bamberg. Bamberg.
I don't know it. I've been to about 3 cities or 4 cities in Germany, but I haven't been to Bamberg. I'm sure
it's kind of
nice.
by it's kind of like down by Nuremberg. Like you go from
I know
Munich
Nuremberg. I know Nuremberg well.
It's about an hour and a bit from Nuremberg on the train.
So in Bavaria.
Yes.
The nicest part of Germany in the world.
Yes, definitely the nicest part for sure.
Now, I've got one last question to ask you, but I think it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But I put it up anyway, and I'm sure you've probably read it if you looked at the questions I sent you. So this guy is Chris H. He actually taught me at trade school. He's a nice guy. He's a beautiful man. But he's a nice guy.
He's a beautiful man. Makes me worried what this question's going to be.
Okay. So he's also a teacher like yourself. No, he's an awesome guy. But I think it's very tongue-in-cheek. He said, are you just going to places for the sake of it to chalk up another? I think he's done it on purpose.
Yeah. No, actually, I know there's a lot of bloggers that do that. They're just like trying to get all the countries and stuff like that. That's why we keep going. Like, because you'll see, we'll go back to the same places again and again and again because we just love those places. And sometimes I'm like, I want to go try to see a new place. Like this summer, because we were in Belgium, I'm like, we should go to Luxembourg. We're right there. The kids have never been. My wife had never been. Let's just go for a few days. And of course, one of my good friends, she lives there, so we went and saw her. So we find reasons to go to some new places, And then, but yeah, it's not so much of the let's check off the bucket list kind of stuff because what I've seen is a lot of people, what is a bucket list thing, they go to get their selfie and they leave. Like I was at Chichen Itza in Mexico by Cancun a couple of years ago with the family, and we're there. Yep. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's one of the 7 new wonders of the world. And there's this group. Awesome. I mean, literally, like we were looking at it, and they you could see them like hurrying up the path. They got in front of it, like, hold on. They're sitting there getting their selfies kind of stuff. They're like, okay, that's good enough. Let's go. I'm like, wait, you didn't learn anything. You didn't look at it. You got your selfie and left. I'm like, yeah, but you could see they're like, oh, bucket list, checked it off, did it. I'm like, oh.
They didn't even clap in front of it to hear the bird, whatever bark. Birds don't bark.
Yeah, and they didn't look to see how could the snake look on the the thing. You're like, come on. I mean, that's what I get. That's what I'm getting. Like, I get sad for those people. I'm like, come on, like just spend 5 minutes because it's amazing. Some places you go, if you just spend 5 more minutes, like I don't just look at it from the front. If I go around the side, I might find something back there. Like you might find another museum or a restaurant or some other place. Like, I never thought about looking at it from this angle, and it helps you see more stuff. So,
but they're the type of people that are traveling, for instance, for a couple of years. They don't work anymore. they're just traveling around the world and trying to see as many places as they can see, so they can tell all their friends and family and people on Instagram that they've done 120 countries, that they've done this. I don't personally think they have done what they've done. I think they've just gone through it, taken a photo, and left just like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's some of the people like, oh, I saw all the countries in 3 years. I'm like, did you really see the country? I mean, and it's not just me that does this. I've had students that have come up to me because they know I travel, and they're like, hey, Mark, they'll show me this article. Like, we did the math. That means she only had 3 days max in any country. She's like, is that really seeing a place? I'm like, probably not. But I don't think her goal was actually to see the countries. Her goal was to actually go to the countries. And so that I'm cool with. But, like, you're not getting a lot out of it. So,
No, you're not. But you know what I've gotten a lot out of is this conversation with you today, Mark.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Mate.
Thanks for reaching out, man. This has been a fun podcast. Thanks, man.
No, it's been very cool, mate. And if anyone wants to contact you or follow you, obviously you've got the YouTube channel. Whereabouts are you on social media?
So if you go to Twitter, you can find us at Wolters World, WOLTERS World.
Yep.
We're on Instagram at Wolters World. We're on LinkedIn. Look for Wolters World. We're in Pinterest. Look for Wolters World. We're in YouTube, Wolters World. Facebook.com/Wolters World. So, or if you could go to our website at Wolters World there as well, WoltersWorld.com. You can find our blog versions of our videos there too.
Okay. And if anyone wants to follow me, instead of putting Wolters World in, put Travelman Podcast in, and even go to Google Travelman Podcast, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. There's no excuse not to listen, and I have great guests like Mark on, and I'm sure whoever's listened today will enjoy any future podcasts or any future YouTube videos that Mark puts up as well.
Thanks.
And
we wish you all happy travels, everybody. Thank you for having me on, man.
Happy travels. No worries, Mark. Well, you take care, mate. And I'm just going to click this stop recording right now. And then I bid you adieu and see you later, buddy. Man. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem.
Bye,
no problem.
Take care.
You too.
Hey, you're a professor. Are you a professor in marketing by any chance?
Yeah, I teach marketing at a university in the U.S.
That's what I thought.
So I teach like a 600-person class. Wow. So like, as I tell my students, I'm the 8 a.m. professor that no one wants to go to class because it's 8 a.m. So I make sure it's worth their while. Because like, look, those students are paying a lot of money to be here, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So you're going to get a show, and you're going to learn something too. So I try to put as much as I can into my lectures, my videos, and stuff like that. So
I reckon your lectures would be pretty fun. I'd love to sit in one day.
Well, you can see some fun stuff on our second channel. We have a Professor Wolters channel now. We just started up where I go through a bunch of stuff there. So we talk about like marketing help and business, the basic business stuff, and YouTube help, because a lot of people don't. There's a lot of like YouTube help videos out there, but it's more like they're talking down to people. And I wanted to talk to people like, look, hey, I do the same stuff. So these are the questions I had.
Yeah.
Here's the answers to them. I found them out. Let's help out. So we're doing those things, and then I started doing some business videos years ago when I worked in Portugal, because I had a lot of students that didn't speak English as a native language. So I'm like, you know what? Let's make it so even if they didn't understand me in class, they can watch the videos again and then get that. So those kind of came from there. And so we got a few of those up now, but the goal is for this year to get about another 200 business videos up for the rest of the year.
That's a heap, Mark. And I know you do 2 a week.
Yeah.
So
I do two or three travel videos a week, and then the business ones, because the business one I've been teaching these topics for a while, so it's not as much like when I do a travel video, I'm doing lots of research and all kinds of stuff, and then I'll do research before I go to the country, and then when I'm in country, I'm doing the research as well, and trying to get a feel for the people and stuff like that, and feel for the culture, and then make the video. So it takes a lot longer to make those versus my business videos, because I've been teaching university classes since 2002, I think.
Wow.
2002. So now it's like old hat doing those. I'm like, hey, let's get this stuff out there, because man, I had some boring professors in my day, and I'm like, look, people don't learn boring. You need to do something to like not necessarily entertain them, but educate them in a way that they remember.
Yeah.
So that's what I really try to focus on.
You need to interest them in something. You need to gain their attention somehow.
Yeah, because just telling them I'm a professor, you have to listen to me, is never going to work. And
taking your top off in the middle of class either. I mean, that's a great way to get everyone interested.
Yeah. Maybe when I first started, that might have helped, but now they'd be like, "Dude, put your shirt back."
Put your shirt back on. Now, Mark, can you tell me?
Yes.
Wow, I'm imagining you with your shirt off.
Nobody needs that. Ninguém merece, as they say in Brazil. No, nobody needs that. Nobody deserves that.
Fair enough.
Anyway. Sorry.
That's all right. It's now going to be in the bloopers that you just coughed.
Like for the 400th time.
Exactly, Mark. Exactly. Hey,